My latest is my wife will let me quit my job if I get 2 more flips on the contract. So trying to grind hard to get these last 2 flips in.
Bro, my girlfriend and I had the same conversation last night. She said 2 more flips and you can quit your job with the Chargers.
Awesome.
I was like, let's go, bro. You and me both. Let's get him.
What's up, my deal makers? What's up, everybody? We are in our La Quinta flip. We've been swimming in the pool. What's up, my deal makers? A lot of familiar faces. See if we can get my man Will in here. What's everybody up to today?
What's up, Alex? I'm in here, brother. Alex, where are you at today, bro? You know, guys, we're obviously pretty excited today. Alex was in LA, so we got to host a couple of our friends and, you know, a couple of you guys out here from the group, you know, from the Ask Alex group. And we actually had a meetup here today at one of our recent flip properties in La Quinta. So right now I'll kind of pull up my screen here and I'll let you guys kind of get a back behind the scenes view. So I'm just sitting here in one of the rooms in one of our current flips, and right outside here at the pool, you can see a couple of guys out here. They're just kind of enjoying themselves. And, you know, we got to do a cool little meetup together out here with, you know, a couple of folks from the Ask Alex group and, you know, get to link up with some people here in person. So keep in tune. If you guys aren't checking in on our Facebook group, we're always kind of posting those events and in-person meetups when we do them on there. And obviously we've been pretty fired up to have Alex back in town. He's just a traveling monster this month. I know he's going to give us an update in a little bit where he's at, where he's kind of going to, but you know, he came from Mexico, Hawaii, and now he's back here in LA for a couple of days before going up to Seattle. So really excited. Again, this is Alex's first time coming out here and seeing this property that we're at in La Quinta. And this is a kind of team deal where, you know, the team was able to take down this project. The team was able to look at this project and the team was able to move forward on it. And now Alex, like we mentioned, gets to come out and kind of validate, hey, the team did a great job. And, you know, when he came out to the property today, that was pretty much what he had to say on it. Would you agree, Alex?
Yeah, I was so excited when I got here. And it's funny, when we pulled out to the front of the house, I didn't even know what the house looked like, actually, because there was a big bush in front of the house before, and then it's not there anymore. And so I didn't even know which house it was. And then once I got inside, I'm like, man, this house is clean. So, yeah, it's going to make
And I did the same thing, man. When I pulled up, I drove literally right past the house. This was only my second time coming here. And so when I drove right past the house. I missed the house because it looked so much different from when we purchased it just a couple of months ago. You know, what a quick landscaping job can do on a project like this. So as always, guys, you know, we appreciate you guys kind of tuning in. Today is our normal group meeting where we typically welcome all of our guests onto the screen. So what we'll do today is we'll kind of start things off with just a brief kind of, you know, touch base. Alex will give a kind of an update as to where he's at, what his kind of last week or two has looked like and what his future week or two looks like. And we'll kind of dive in and go from there. So Alex, let us know, man, what have you been up to?
Well, really just, let me see here. Sometimes I forget because I travel so much. Okay. So yeah. So last week, I decided to go to this real estate investor retreat. It was hosted by 2 Latino investors, Diego Corzo. He's out of Austin, rock star. I've been a fan of his for some time, but we just haven't got a chance to meet in person. And since I was in San Antonio, popped over there, right? Said what's up with him. You know, had some good time with him in Austin. So he told me that he was having this retreat with a bunch of other investors that him and his co-host Felipe Mejia was having. So I was asked to speak and to stop by that event. It was on the border of Florida and Alabama. And it was interesting. I've never thought, when I think Alabama, I don't think of beautiful beaches on the water, but actually this place was in Alabama and it was on the beach and it was this beautiful vacation rental property. And I got to connect with some super cool people. And I got to present about how I'm building this company and some of the things that we're working on and build some deep relationships with some people. And then flew back on Sunday, got here late on Sunday to LA, and it's been grind mode ever since I got back. I've been in meetings back to back to back. Now we're over here at the flip looking at it. And tomorrow I'm going to be flying out to Seattle to speak at an event there for Tarl Yarber and a bunch of people, cool people up there in Seattle. So I'm excited about connecting with one of our hard money lenders up there. He's helping fund a lot of our deals. And yeah, that's kind of it, man. Just excited to be back. Unfortunately, I'm not in LA for that long, but you know, we get as much as we can get done while we're here. And we're now at this property, and you guys did a fantastic job as a team. And you know, we bought another great deal, and looks like this one's going to be a big winner.
So I want you to touch a little bit more on the relationship side, right? Because, you know, that's something that you focus on, right, Alex, is the big business relationships, right? Pushing the brand forward, making sure that the growth is happening, right? So touch a little bit more on what you're doing up in Seattle. Like, what is that? What's kind of going on up there? You know, why are you so involved with this group of people?
Yeah, so it's been one of those things that I was lucky enough to be invited to this circle of people through the Maui Mastermind. But then with any relationships, you have to continue to invest and nurture these relationships, especially if they're relationships that there's a lot of mutual alignment. There's a lot of potential of working and together. And that's kind of what's happened with this group of people where, you know, this hard money lender or this owner of this hard money lending company, when we first met, I wasn't, you know, I didn't have the production that I needed to you know, expand on our relationship. But as my company grew, as our deal flow grew, he saw that. And then I was able to do a couple of deals with him and with his company. And I saw the service, I saw the, you know, the great rates and everything that I needed to continue to grow this business. So I don't have to go up there to, you know, to Seattle, but number one, it's allowing me to share my story and impact more people. Number two, it's allowing me to be around these people that are obviously doing a lot of stuff on a high level. So if you meet somebody that is operating at a high level and you can continue that relationship with them, where do you think they're probably headed? They're probably headed in a positive direction. And if you could be, you know, in their network, it's very valuable. So yeah, I spend a lot of time on the relationships that could help our business because that's something that not everybody in our business can do. You know, that's something that's my role, to continue to expand the network and continue to be around people that can help us with our business and our business problems, because as a business, we do have problems and we do have needs. And so I have to help to continue to fill those holes and to solve those problems for the company.
And again, going out and doing these, you know, meetups, like you said, these are some pretty big investors that you've been welcomed into their group. And so the same thing for some of you guys who are in the webinar today. You know, I mean, like, this is our group that we've now welcomed you guys into, and this is your chance, just like with Alex, to kind of shine and show, hey, this is what I can do to add value to this group. And Alex, we talked about this, you know, today, right? When you make money with other people, that strengthens the relationship so much quicker and so much easier.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's one thing about just, you know, kind of supporting each other and having some accountability, but it's a whole nother level when you're able to be profitable with people. We were just in the pool kind of swimming around, and I brought up that point, right, where my best relationships have become, you know, multi-layered, multifaceted. What I mean by that is, like, for example, our broker, he helps us list property. He also can become a partner on deals because he's also an investor. He helps our clients that are retail clients that, you know, you're not licensed, I'm not licensed. I don't want to, you know, do loans for a living. I don't want to, you know, show people houses. He does all that for us. But it didn't start that way. It started first where he was helping us sell some of the property, and he was giving us a very fair rate because we were giving him a house a month. And now that relationship has grown to more and more and more. So I really encourage people to look at relationships that can be that strong and that can continue to evolve and grow, to look at relationships that way. Like, how, you know, is this a relationship that I could work with this person for 3, 4, 5 years? You know, you're not trying to think of every relationship like that, but what I'm saying is that you have relationships in your life that could, you know, it could serve different purposes. And those are people you want to be aligned with, people that can, you know, help you in many areas of your life, and you can help them as well in different areas too. And so there's just a lot of synergy in those type of relationships.
And I like how you mentioned that, Alex. It's not like that's what you're going into the relationship for, right? But you just notice in developing this relationship, in spending more time with these people, hey, we actually have a lot of synergy and we have a lot of, you know, cohesion we're doing a lot of the same things, and that's where your kind of relationship will continue to grow and build, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I see a lot of new people that they want to network, and networking is valuable. But if you're just getting started and you haven't really taken much action, then how much do you have to bring to the table to that networking possibility with that relationship? I'm not saying don't do it at the beginning because you want to learn, you want to see other people that are doing stuff. But isn't it a lot more beneficial for you to network with people once you've already got some level of success, and maybe you have some business problems that maybe they can help you with, but it's already based off of action you've taken and success that you've already had, failures you've already had, and it isn't just, hey, I want to get involved, help me. And then you're just kind of taking, you're not really giving very much. So make sure you're coming from a place of like giving. And that's hard to do when you're like brand new. So not that I don't believe in networking when you're brand new. I just think it has its place, and you have to do a lot of action first, and you have some traction, right? And be doing maybe a deal or two already before you're like all gun ho on networking, every week with other, people in business.
But like you said, there's levels to it, right? So if you're a beginning investor, you can still be in the table, but you just need to kind of understand like, hey, what value do I bring to the table? And one of the great questions that you've always mentioned to me when I find myself in this position is, just asking the people in the room, what are the biggest challenges that you're dealing with, right? Because then it again takes it off of you explaining how you're such a rookie and puts it back on somebody else where they're now able to tell you some strategies that they're having difficulties with. And that's where you get that alignment where you're like, hey, I'm Alex. I'm doing what you're saying you're having troubles with. Why don't we see if we can create some alignment and grow our businesses?
Yeah, no, that's great. You're right about that, because I asked that question. That's kind of a default question to ask people, because we're all facing problems. I have problems. You have problems. Everybody. So if our job is to like solve problems for a living for homeowners, then it makes sense to me to like ask people like, hey, what are you going through right now? What's your biggest challenge? Because usually I have some insight based off my experience. Or if not, then maybe I have somebody in my network that could help in that problem. So I'm starting there so that way I can solve a problem for somebody, because that's gonna, that's gonna help us build a bond together. I'm like, hey man, Alex helped me. He introduced me to such and such, or he gave me this advice, and I trust him based on the fact that he's already done some deals. So I'm gonna trust that what he's telling me is good advice, and I'm gonna run with that. So yeah, I just like to ask that question, because if someone asks me that question, believe me, I always have an answer for them on that, because I always have some challenge or another that I'm dealing with.
So Alex, I know today was obviously pretty exciting. We got to have a couple of people out here at the property. This is a home that you have physically never seen before, right? Talk to us a little bit about the team, where you're at with the team, and kind of what you're seeing as far as the future of the team while you're kind of, out here in LA, right? And obviously, you've gotten to meet with a couple of your team members since you've been out here. We did a team dinner. We did our team get together out here at the property. But kind of let people know, like, in terms of your company growth, like, where are you at and where are you looking to get to?
Well, what we're doing right now is we're growing the team based on what we see we need. So we just recently brought in a social media manager, and that's because we've noticed that, I can't get to all the responses, and then we can, we're having a lot of positive things happen with our business because of the social media presence that we have. So right now we're growing that, having that, we just hired that person. As far as the acquisitions, you're rock and rolling, getting consistent deals every month. And now you're starting to train or have been training some of the people that are junior acquisitions, or people that are, want to be full-time acquisitions in the business. But I think right now what I'm most proud about is the fact that we are having consistent deals, not only in the Antelope Valley, but also in other parts of Southern California. And because we're just working well as a team with getting to offers, increasing. Omari's been, starting to step his game up with a lot more offers, and he's helping with this La Quinta property. But I'm just seeing each one of you guys grow in your individual areas. And then, as the leader, I'm just trying to figure out how I can continue help you guys grow in the areas that you're maybe lacking. Because I think every team member, as long as they're an A player, as long as they're, bringing in, putting in the work, there's little areas that we all can help. And I think you've been doing a great job of that too, Will, with, pouring in to the team members, because it takes time to see the results, 2-3 months for people to be competent enough to get the results on their own. And then also take some time for us to gel and synergy, kind of just have that team synergy. So I don't even know the number yet, but I think we are, I want to say we're about a squad, overall squad of about 14 people. 4 people are in, 4 of the team members are in Hawaii. And then the other 10 are here in LA, but also we have the virtual assistants in Mexico. So it's growing, man. It's growing. And I'm just trying to do my best job to give you guys as much direction as possible so we have continued growth. And that's what we're looking for. Just continue to all grow as investors, as a team, as a company.
Well, Alex, why don't you make me the host, and I'll go ahead and welcome in some other screen members onto the screen. And like we do on these normal weeks, guys, we'll go ahead and welcome in some of our other guests. And like we always do on this third week of the month, we'd love to hear from you guys, from our regular attendees, and kind of get an idea from you guys. What do you need help with? What can we help you with, and what questions do you guys have? And as we kind of welcome you guys onto the screen, go ahead and let us know. And,
we did. I think we did a great job of that last time we did this, where everybody or anybody that had a particular challenge that they think the group could help with, come prepared, you guys, and ask for the help. One of the things I know from some dealing with some of the most successful people in this business is that they will ask for help. They will look for consultants. They will look for coaches. They will look for the help that they need in their business, and they're not shy about it. So, the more vocal you are about the challenges you have, the more that this group can help you.
And Alex, you brought that up earlier. Like, it's a question that we ask people is like, what challenges are you having? So if you have a challenge, now would be the time, to bring that to light and see, hey, who are the people in this room that can help me solve that problem? And I guarantee you there's people in here that can do that, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's kind of continue welcoming people in here. Again, I know we had probably about 25, 30 people out here today at the house. So I know some folks are going to be kind of tuning in as they drive home. Some folks are kind of able to tune in right now. So if you guys are available, go ahead and turn on your screens as I add you in here, and kind of let us know what you're dealing with and what kind of help you need. I know Daniel Kong is just absolutely crushing it. So let us know what you're up to, brother. What do you got going on?
Just grinding, bro. Appointments. I mean, my latest is my wife will let me quit my job if I get 2 more flips on the contract. So trying to grind hard to get these last 2 flips in.
Bro, my girlfriend and I had the same conversation last night. She said 2 more flips and you can quit your job with the Chargers.
Awesome.
I was like, let's go, bro. You and me both. Let's get him.
We can look at Rory back in the building. How you doing, brother?
Rory, how are things going over on your project? I know you've had a couple hiccups kind of come your way. How are things going?
Sure, man. In the long run, this is going to be an extraordinary opportunity, an incredible learning lesson. When they say, everything will double, absolutely 100% right. But we got through it, and it's pretty awesome. I thought we would have renters in the front house a month or 2 ago. We're shooting for October 1 now. Feel actually really, really good about that. Different things come up. Learned a lot about old buildings and old houses. Dealt with every kind of contractor you could find. But after going through this, we're still coming out ahead. It's just taking longer. But after coming through this, just feel so confident about going into other deals and other flips and other stuff. I mean, we've done everything from replace sewer lines to knock stuff down, to redo porches, to redo electrical panels, to you name it, we kind of ran into it. So in the long run, it's gonna be awesome, but definitely was much, much more frustrating than I ever imagined.
Now, Rory, quick question on that. Since you bought a property, you had unexpected things come up. What do you think, if you were to go back, you would do different, or what do you think you could share with the tribe that you learned the most?
100%. Just like you guys say, keep leaning into people. When you run into a problem, reach out to those who have done it before. And whether that's, hey, what's your take on this? Or I'm looking for a plumber. Do you guys know anybody? I would do that. Other thing, the power of social media, the power of Instagram is amazing, especially if you're looking for subs. If you're looking for anybody to connect with, make a post or a story about what it is you're going up against, and go look for some people. But in terms of process, what I do is it's all about balance, right? So you can go full throttle into this. I'm tackling all this, tackling all that, tackling all that, and you do that for 2 days. Then you get wiped out and you have to take care of the other parts of your life. Then you forget about what you were doing. You come back to it 5, 6, 7 days later and you're like, I thought this was all done. No, now we're like 10 more days behind. And so it's just keeping that balance between your own life and the project itself. And it doesn't have to be super detailed or involved, but keep a list, just a basic project planning list, and just stay on top of it. Do your daily check-in or your, 2-3 times a week check-in and just keep it balanced.
Awesome. Thank you, Rory, for sharing. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
And Rory, again, I mean, like some of the things that you've dealt with would knock people out of real estate investing just on their own. But I know the first big problem you had, you're like, hey, I have to do this extra thing that I didn't think I had to do. And the second thing you told me is like, but I'm already marketing for my next project. We're looking to do this, this, and this now. And it was like, that was the coolest thing I took from that is even though you took a couple L's, you still bought it.
Well,
so I will echo what Alex said, and I appreciate you sharing your feedback, man.
For sure. And we Will, thanks for that real quick. And one of the biggest reasons we were able to take those L's and keep moving forward is because of people like you, Alex, who've said, you know what, I had a bunch of L's and I got through them and look at me today. And that gave me the confidence that we can do this too.
Yeah, no, thank you. But what I loved about all the posting I seen what you were doing was that, you were like, hey, this is a problem, but we're working through it. Like, it was never like, oh, look, see, guys, this is not working, or, being negative about it. But it was like, hey, this issue came up. This is investing, but I've committed to it, and we're going to solve it. And that's the message I got from seeing all your posts. And, you have to be vulnerable on social media for people to relate to you and say, hey, this guy, it's not all wins. Like, there are some losses, but you learn from them. And I think you did a great job of documenting that for people that are watching you.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that. And I won't say that I didn't have those moments of, you want to throw in the towel, but we kept those privately. We dealt with them between ourselves. And then you put your good foot forward and it's going to be all right. Yeah,
for sure. Well, all right, cool. Anybody else have any learning lessons to share? Any challenges they want help with? Anything that's top of mind? We got Hector raising his hand here. What's up, Hector?
Again, if anybody else has something they want to share or anything they're dealing with, again, kudos to Rory for sharing today. But also for just sharing in general. And yeah, Hector, it looks like we can hear you now. Go ahead and fire away, man.
We also have somebody I met at the REI retreat in the house. Everybody, I want you to say what's up to Thiago. This guy's, he's killing it out there. He bought 60 properties in basically his first year. And his story is incredible. So connect with him. He's doing a lot of deals in Augusta, Georgia. You want to say anything real quick, Thiago?
No, you said it all. That's it. 60 units in 1 year in Augusta. That's it.
Exactly. Now he had a lot of guidance.
And I saw Thiago up on the stage with Alex speaking at the recent retreat that they were at. And I gave Thiago a follow because, again, when you see people that are out there taking those action steps and crushing it, those are the people that you want to follow because, again, it just gives you motivation that, hey, if Thiago can do this in his first year, I should be able to take down at least 5. Exactly. Maybe don't have to jump in at 60, but you should be able to at least take down 1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
And again, congratulations, Thiago. That is a hell of a year, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's just getting started. Keep an eye on that guy, and hopefully we can do a deal together, Thiago, in the future. I know we will.
Hope on that.
All right, Hector, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Hey, brother.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. Alex, I've been following your story. I think we chatted a few times over DM. And so I'm also known as Hector Realtor. So I'm a realtor on the side. I help people kind of, purchase their homes, list their homes. But I also myself am an investor. My strategy has been, purchase and hold, for long-term, passive income. But just recently, I just got into a flip project in the Bay Area in San Jose, California. And in order to kind of spread the risk, I actually joined with 3 other partners. And one of the challenges that we're facing is that we have all these contractors lined up, but there's currently tenants in that particular in that property. And we're trying to go in there, but the tenants are giving us a hard time to actually go in there and inspect everything that the contract's contractors need to get access to. So my question is, have you gone through that? And I'm sure you have. And what are some, maybe best practices on how to approach that?
Yeah, great question. So let me just understand the situation clearly. Is this a property then they're going to stay in there? You're rehabbing it while they're actually still living there?
No, so they're going to vacate the property. We're going to take over on September 1st. And literally, as soon as because we went in there, I went in there with the home inspector. So he gave me a broad, inspection of what needed to be done. So my partners and I got a game plan going. We just wanted to take the contractors there to make sure that they can give us a quote and make sure that, our ducks are in a row in regards to all the repairs. Now, us going in there has been a challenge, and these guys are going to get out by August 31st. Once we get the keys, then we have to get in the contractors immediately after. So I think that's kind of eating up in our timeline because they don't allow us to get in there any sooner. So what are your thoughts? I mean, how do you guys combat that?
What I would do if I were you, then I would, try to grease the wheels if you really need to, because time is money. So, maybe you could give them a gift card. Maybe you can, give them some cash, just a little bit, just so, for them to like be a little bit more warmer, open to that reception, because, or otherwise just work on what you can by the outside of the property and, bid it out from the outside. Is this single family residence?
Yeah, it's a single family for sure. It's a 4-2. It's in San Jose, California. So as you can see, the market out there, it's cool. I mean, we got it at a good price. So after, the estimate we're gonna estimate to sell it for pretty good profit. So
dealing with tenants, they're, looking at it, they're being displaced, and you got to look at it from their perspective. And they are going to be moving out. Like, it's not going to be an issue them moving out, is it?
No, not from what we've communicated with the seller. But again, we've heard horror stories where they'll leave the place a mess, and obviously that puts a lot more on our plate. So they're just
kind of greasing the wheels a little bit. I would just recommend you try to take care of them a little bit, and give them a gift card or give them some money to just be a little bit more cooperative if you really, really need access. Nobody wants to, pay money that maybe you don't feel like you owe, but when, you're going to have the contractor in there and it's going to help you out and getting that project going faster, it could be worth, a little bit of money for you to do that. Otherwise, they're just going to, what's in it for them? What's the incentive for them to give you access to the property and be cooperative when they're already on their way out? And they're like, oh, well, just look at it. And like you said, you don't want them to just trash the place or to, damage the place in any extra way simply because you're just that investor with deep pockets that's coming in there and displacing them. So I would try to, bribe them a little bit, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that's actually a good suggestion. So I'll go ahead and try that.
Actually, I remember doing a deal from tenants, and the very first day I brought them a gift card for $100 to Starbucks, and I didn't have to do that, but it just set the tone. And then it was much easier to negotiate with them throughout the process because I already started with giving them something. And so it goes a long way. If you do it the right way, it definitely can help you make progress with the communication with them.
Cool. I appreciate you. I'm going to try that out and let you know how that goes. So I appreciate that.
All right. Let us know. Cool. What else, guys? Anybody else got a challenge?
And Alex, just to comment in there, Alex, like you said, it's you're giving something, right, to get something back. And I just want to harp on that because, again, it goes a long way when you create that relationship. A lot of times why these sellers are selling their property is because a relationship with their tenants broke down. And so when you come in and you create that relationship on the front ground, which is like, hey, I respect you. I understand what's going on. I didn't even need to bring this $100 gift card. But again, Alex, I think that really does kind of set the tone that it's, hey, this is a new ownership. This is new management. This is new landlord. And I want to set things on the right foot instead of starting things off where they ended, right?
Yeah. Because they could easily stay for a couple extra weeks. And then what? That's going to be even more of a headache. And then what if they don't want to leave and stay another month and you're making a payment on the property? And it's going to cost you money either way. So just that's the reason I suggest that just be as gentle, but also as persuasive as possible.
And you are the new
Thank
owner.
you.
So, I mean, it is your chance to also kind of come in there and let the ground rules be known. Like, hey, I'm giving you this gift card, but also this is our new process and this is a new way that we're going to play ball.
Cool. Good question.
You.
Thank you. Keep taking action, Hector. Great connecting with you. Thank you for attending. What else, everybody? What are we working on here? I could give you a bunch of my problems, see if you guys can help me with my problems if you want.
I see Irish is on the call, and I know Irish picked up a property recently. Are you having any success on your property, Irish, or any issues that you want to kind of share or talk about and are comfortable sharing? Or I also see that Jessica raised her hand. I don't know if you had something you wanted to chime in as well here, Jess.
Yeah, I do have something to share. So I recently, noticed a property just, driving around. It looks like it had some fire damage. I'm still pretty new to real estate. I only have like one duplex that I'm currently house hacking. So I'm still trying to, like in the education process and just learning about, estimating rehab costs. When it's a situation like that, where it's, like fire damage, do you just, like, how do you even go about estimating rehab costs on that? Like, I've heard of like, maybe if it's like a full gut job, just like estimating like a dollar amount per square foot, maybe like 200. I don't know. I just wanted to see if anybody had an opinion on that.
Yeah, can I go back a little bit though and ask you a question about that? It's a fire damage property in your neighborhood. Is it listed for sale, or why do you want to estimate the rehab?
No, it's not listed for sale. I actually, I want to go ahead and like try to see if I can get it off market and just contact the owner directly.
Okay, so not that estimating rehab isn't important, but I would try to reach out to the owner first and see if there's even any interest in selling it. But we do use a formula when we're estimating rehab, and our formula on the higher rehabs are generally about $60 to $80 per square foot in Los Angeles. What market are you in?
So I'm located in San Diego, but I also have family like in Orange County, and the property is actually in Orange County.
Okay, so I would imagine it's definitely going to be somewhere kind of close to that range. A 1,000 square foot house at $50 a square foot would only be $50,000. I doubt you could rehab that house in Orange County for $50,000. Now it could even go up to $100 per square foot, but I would use probably a metric right in between there, $60 to $80 per square foot. So if it's a 1,500 square foot house, you multiply that by 60 and 80, and then you kind of figure a range of what it could be. But I wouldn't really do too much research, because what I found is a lot of people, they'll see this ugly house and they'll be like, oh, just because it's ugly, someone probably wants to sell it, and maybe I could buy it off market. But the reality is you got to look at a lot of those properties to eventually get one. And so if you just spot one and just like looking at one on occasion, it isn't going to usually turn into some results. It could, but usually we got to look at, like at least 100, 200 of these properties and, call like 200 of these owners, 300 of these owners to actually get one. So don't fall into the trap of just like, oh, I see this one ugly house, they got to want to sell it because it's just in really bad condition. Right. That's not the case. It could be bank owned and they're going to eventually put it on the market in like 3 months from now. And you spend time, analyzing it, looking at it and all that. And you really have very little chance of getting that deal, or it's not even going to be listed for some time. Or it's owned by another investor that's going to tear it down and then build on it. I'm just giving an example. Because I want you to be efficient with your time and also understand that you have to look at a lot of property generally to get the one. So that's my take on that. You want to add anything, Will?
Yeah, I'll echo on that, Alex. Like, I love what you said, right? Like, motivation is the number one factor, right? Just because you have a distressed property, and we deal with this with our driving for dollars leads all the time, right? When you drive for dollars, you're specifically targeting homes that are distressed. But just because a home is distressed, to Alex's point, doesn't mean that it's going to be sold immediately in the next 2 weeks. It could be burned down, and somebody could be dealing with insurance, and insurance could be paying them out for the house. And there's really no motivation for them to sell it because they're going to get a full insurance check anyway, and they might want to wait until after that point. So I would echo what you said there, Alex. And the motivation is really the most important point there, not just the fact that it's burned down, but are they actually motivated to move that property?
Yeah, and we're just trying to guide you on that, Jessica, so that way you do spend time also looking for more properties than just the one. I'm not saying you're not, but Just because it's distressed, don't assume that it's a good opportunity. You still have to do some legwork to find out if there's motivation.
Yeah, no, definitely. And thank you for the input on that. Yeah, I just started, getting set up on PropStream. So like, I'm just starting to, start looking at other off-market deals, but this one just happened to be one that I kind of noticed as I was driving by. So yeah, definitely on the same page on, making sure I'm also like, looking for more.
Okay, thank you. Let us know if you have any other questions. I think Edward has his hand up. Mr. Vocal Edward, always.
Love it. Edward always bringing value, man. I love it. What's up, Edward? What's going on, man?
Well, on that note, I was going to say, and I messaged you, Jessica, is if anyone needs to find out any owner information, contact info, to go about that process, I'm a local real estate agent here in Los Angeles. So if there's anyone that needs MLS help or MLS owner information, I work with title companies that are a phone call away. We're here to be a resource to each other, and I hope to do that for anyone here. So feel free to reach out to me and give me a call.
Legendary stuff as always, Ed. And again, guys, like I do it regularly. I call agents and I ask for their advice, for their opinions on properties. So having somebody in your corner like Edward is invaluable. And I'm sure Edward would help write up offers on your behalf if there was something that you needed to make an offer on. So definitely, take advantage of people in the group that are open and willing to help as much as people like Edward, right?
Hey, Will, can I chime in?
Please do, Mark. What's up, brother?
So going on Jessica, if you do look into this house, I bought a fire damaged house and I ran into issues I didn't know. So I did mine in West Covina. One thing buying a firehouse damage, make sure if that city wants fire sprinklers. So West Covina, I didn't know, it's a single story. Everywhere you go, they don't really need fire sprinklers on a single story house. Well, West Covina, they do. So that was an expense. And the main one is you need a 1-inch meter to run the flow. Now, my problem was it was connected with the neighbors. So now I had to disconnect my neighbors and mine so I could have a 1-inch pipe going through, which was about a $30,000 expense, everything all included. So that's very crucial that you ask the water company, are you joint connected or bullnosed with your neighbor's water meter? And does the city need fire sprinklers on a single story house? That's a problem I ran into. And if someone had told me that, I would have answered that a long time ago. But I ran into that problem. So that's my 2 cents.
And Mark, I love what you said there too, because, again, we were looking at a property with fire damage up here just recently, Eliam and I, and biggest thing for us on it is, like you mentioned, Mark, what involvement does the city have? Like, is the city aware of this property? Is it aware that the property has been burned down? Have they tagged it as non-occupiable? Because if the city has, then the city is going to have much more involvement in that project and making sure that it is, brought back up to code than maybe some other projects in town that might have had, a little bit of fire damage, but maybe weren't a complete teardown, right?
Yep.
And the city and the water company, they do not communicate at all.
Yep. And that's really what happens with the delays with dealing with city involvement, is that not only are you going to pay fees for the permits, and in some areas, the fees for permits for a simple rehab can be $5,000, or some larger amount, and not to mention all the extra delays that you have. So that's why we try to avoid deals that have heavy city involvement, unless we're getting a very deep discount on the deal, because you need to justify all that extra work and extra bandwidth that it's going to take from your team or from yourself if you're going to have to manage that project. So don't ever. I just think it's a good idea not to underestimate how much more time and how much more expensive it's going to be to rehab a property that's going to require full permitting, full city involvement.
Yeah, Alex, if I could jump in for 1 second. So we're only, on everything we've done, there's only 2 permits that we've done. One on the sewer because we went into the street, so we had to do that. All the other stuff we've done, we did without without permit. It's great. The last one we're going to have to do is the electrical panel. So now we're a duplex, but we're 2 separate houses. And again, it's an older property. Currently, from the power line on the street, There's a line to the front house, a line to the rear house. We only need to upgrade the panel on the front house. We went to the city, got to get our permit. Says, okay, well, if you want to upgrade that panel, I need you to do both. And now on multifamily properties, we only want one point of entry for power to the whole property. So you're going to get a line to the front house, and now you need to go underground and run cable to the back house. So what was going to be like a $1,200 job is like a $6,000 job.
Yep. And those are those differences between cities, between permits, between codes. So yeah, I mean, that's the bigger thing. Like, again, you know, when we talk about kind of rehabs, the easiest rehabs to get into, Alex, are the base hits, right? When you start to get into those heavy rehabs, that's when you can start to have heavy add-ons, you know, start to build up your project rehab where, you know, hey, this project might need this, 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 and this. And then you get into it and you're like, wow, it needs all of those. And that can turn, you know, negative pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Another example of heavy rehab we just finished that was actually fire damage was the one in the Rosamond. And guess what? We had an $80,000 rehab on that, or 85, and then we spent 100. So, you know, and it took about the time we expected. But those heavy rehabs are just the ones that have the highest likelihood of running away from you. So just be aware.
Yeah, and you know, again, it's because your rehab is expanded, right? It's not like I'm going in and just doing a cosmetic flip. It's, hey, I'm going to need to dig up this. I'm going to need to install a new panel. I'm going to need to do stuff that, to your point, Rory, might need permitting, right? Might need city involvement, might require delays and additional fees. You know, so that's why, you know, typically when you get into your first flip, you don't generally want to buy into a fire damage, a mold, a flood damage house, because there's a lot more things that could end up being wrong with those houses than your general cosmetic, right?
Yep.
So I see, Daniel, you got your hand raised again. I'm not sure. I know you're driving. Did you raise it on accident, or what's up?
Yeah,
brother?
no, I got a question for you guys. And so I'm dealing with like a small, I guess, a decision. So we're about to finish a flip that we're over here in Hawaii, but then there's a couple of different realtors I could use. One of them, they'll give me like a big kickback, so I'll get the most money. The other one has like a potential relationship down the line that I think would be very valuable as far as like some off-market leads. And then the third one is kind of the one where it's my friend. And so like she's listed some of our properties before and I value that relationship, but I think she expects to list this house for us. And so I'm just trying to figure out like, should I just like pass a least resistance, give it to her because we're friends and like she's already expecting it to like come her way, you know? And so she also walked it with us when we were in the middle of the rehab, just to kind of give us her advice. And so it's kind of like, it's like there's a lot of different kind of like ways I could go with this, but I mean, like, would you have some advice?
Yeah, so I do have some advice because I've been in scenarios similar,
sorry.
Where, I mean, we can't make everybody happy, you guys. You know, as an investor, you know, you're listing a property, you're going to probably have multiple offers. And it's actually why I don't actually read those letters from the end buyers, because you know, they're going to just tell you, oh, we're this new family. And, you know, and I used to read them before and it influences you. But really what you're looking for is what's best for business, what's best for the transaction, what's the one, not no emotion, just logic. And so that happens with contractors. You bid it out to 3 contractors and, you know, you kind of like this other contractor, but this one seems to be a better match for the deal. And I think you have to look at it from that perspective, Daniel, and be like, what makes the most sense, not like emotions, and what is the most long-term benefit. Like you said, on one of the agents, maybe it could be, if that person can maybe bring you another deal a year, another 2 deals a year, I mean, that would weigh heavily, in my opinion, compared to somebody that's my friend that did give me some advice. But if you've already done some deals with her in the past and you can sit down, that might be a tough conversation and say, hey, you know what, just so you know, we're not going to use you as a listing agent on this because of X, Y, Z. But you know, that doesn't mean I won't list the next one with you. It's just because this makes the most sense. And so they're tough conversations to have, but what I recommend is you look at it from that logical standpoint. What makes the most sense for the business? What makes the most sense for this transaction? And that way you're not using your emotion like, oh, just this person's your friend. So, okay, but what actually makes the most sense? I think that's what I would do. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful. That's really helpful.
And I love how Alex put it, right? It's business sense, right? So Alex recently purchased the Steve Train coaching program for us to kind of work with as a company. And one of the big things that he points out in that coaching is assuming the obvious and asking sellers, hey, what would you do if you were in my position? Like, would you buy this house for 400 from you? So I would almost open that up to the same point to negotiate with those three people, those three parties, right? Maybe you go to that agent that's your friend and let them know the situation you're in and say, hey, friend, like, what would you do? Like, I could make an extra 30K if I sold it with this guy. I could get another couple of deals if I sold it with this guy. Or I can kind of grow our relationship if I sell it with you. Like, what would you do? And then they might bring the answer to you, which is just like, Daniel, dude, like, I don't want to hold you back from, growing your business. It sounds like you can make more money with this guy. Why don't you do that? Or they might then make that concession of like, hey, man, I know we're friends, but really, if we're friends, I should be competing with you on the same level that other people are competing for your business, right?
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you. Well, that's awesome advice, like always, bro. Thank you.
No worries, brother. Appreciate your contributions always, Daniel, man. You're a legend, bro. So guys, who else has something that's kind of, holding back their business? Again, this is the question that Alex always recommends that I ask people when I'm in this setting, when I'm in a room with other, valuable investors. You're talking about a guy in here, Thiago, that's taken down 60 deals. You're talking about Rory that's taken down a house hack that's had issues. You're talking about Daniel that's doing flips in Hawaii. Alex in the room that's doing flips across the country. So now is your chance, guys. If you have any questions, anything that is holding you back in your business, any challenges, let it rip. This is the forum that you can get the answers and responses that you need. And it can even be positive feedback. It doesn't have to be, something that's holding you back. Like Deb, I know you guys just got to link up with Alex while he was out in San Antonio in Texas. And I know that was huge. So maybe even something like that, where it's not a need or something that's holding you back, but maybe just something that has positively helped you grow your business in the past month that somebody else here in the room, could take some growth.
So I have another one. This Hector again. It's regarding scaling, right? And so obviously I'm working on my first flip now, and I actually found another opportunity as well. Now, it's a little intimidating when, you don't know how that first one actually is going to end up, which we think it's going to be positive, but at the end of the day, you don't want to pull another one until that one concludes. So I guess, as a new flipper, how do you scale that? How do you kind of jump into that next deal before you even complete your first one?
Well, I mean, what comes to mind to me is the numbers. I mean, does it fit your buy box? Does it fit, the numbers that you're looking to do? And if it does, then it shouldn't matter that it's only your second one, because it still fits your criteria. Now, if it's like outside of your, capacity, or maybe it's in a different area that you're not, that familiar with, then I would be hesitant to take it on another deal if it's a little bit outside of what your core buy box is. So does it fit your criteria, or what's the scoop on that?
And just to butt in there, Alex, I love how you brought that up, right? Because we dealt with that here at the house we're at right now in La Quinta, right? This is 2.5 hours from our home location in LA. So this would definitely be considered out of our buy box, right? But because we trusted the numbers, like, why wouldn't we jump into this deal, right? If it fits our box, if it fits our numbers. And the number one question Alex asked me when we looked at this deal was, would this take away from your bandwidth from our other projects? Like, is doing this deal out in La Quinta going to slow us down from getting our next deals here in LA? And that would be my question to you, Hector, is taking down this second deal going to affect the numbers on the first one? Because if it isn't, then what's holding you back, right? If it's another deal and it fits the box, then it sounds like something you might want to jump into.
Daniel, here's another quick tip is, like, if it's maybe say you're kind of maxed out or you're unsure, is partnerships are a great way to kind of overcome this, right? So let's say you bring the deal to like Alex or Will and say, like, hey, I've got this other deal that I think it's a great deal, but I'm not sure if I can handle all of this. Then you bring in a partner who can, like, has experience, and they'll say, like, hey, we'll partner on this, we'll do a lot of the work, and we'll make sure that this deal happens, right? And so they've done 100 flips already. They got the experience, and so as long as it's a good deal, then you can always partner on this thing. So never turn down a deal because you're too you're too busy, you can always wholesale it. You can always partner with somebody else. So that'll be like kind of like my thought process. So
great point. I completely agree.
Love that.
Nice. Good suggestions, guys. I have to go back to the drawing board. Definitely. I appreciate all this, man. This is all helpful. Thank you.
So Hector, the question is like, would you make 20K on this second deal instead of 100K on the deal, or would you rather make 0? Because that's what Daniel's saying is like, it might be best to bring in a partner and say, hey, now I can put that 20 that I made towards this, towards finishing up the first deal. And at the same time, I'm learning from other partners. And Alex, this is something that we do, right? We do partnerships with other people when it's outside of our scope or outside of our box, because it allows us to learn and still make some money on the deal, right?
Yeah, with the Hawaii deal, I didn't have enough cash to do the deal on my own. I partnered up on it, but it's a monster deal. And I knew that, and when in doubt, like, lock it up and then figure it out. And I wanted to wholesale the deal, but then, the tenants in place, prevented me from really getting the wholesale fee and the wholesale deal done. And so I ended up having to get a partner to come in and bring the money. But it was a deal. And I didn't let that deter me. I simply just found the right partner for it. So sometimes you have to partner up just simply to spread the risk out. You're dividing the, I call it division of labor, and also you're spreading the risk out. And it's a really good thing. And especially if you're getting other people paid, now you have someone else in your corner. And it just gives you more and more confidence rather than like regret, like, oh man, I wish I would have got that deal. And then, and then you're kind of in that rather than just, spreading the risk out and partnering up. Cool. All right, guys, we got a couple more minutes. Anybody else? Caesar?
Hey, Will, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I want 3 tips on how to become a better closer.
Better closer. Man, I mean, when I think about closing, right, the first thing that I kind of go into is like, what is the end goal, right? So, for example, I sell Chargers tickets on the side. I work for the NFL. So if that person doesn't actually want to be in that stadium, if that person doesn't want to sell their house, then it doesn't matter how hard you grind, how hard you try, it doesn't matter. So motivation is the number one thing. If you can't identify motivation, you will not be able to close. Second thing, follow-up. So follow-up is where it's at. If I could close somebody in 1 minute, I wouldn't be here with you guys. I'd be closing people, right? It takes longer than 1 minute. It takes follow-up. It takes consistency. It takes getting on the phone with that person. When they say to call them back next week, if you call them back next week and they don't answer, who's the asshole now? Now you have a reason to text them back and say, hey man, you told me to call you this week. I called you. I did everything you told me to do. Did I do something wrong, or am I missing something? So follow up, motivation, and then the third thing is just understanding like your end goal, right? So the reason that I consider myself a closer is because I have a bigger why in mind than just myself. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my future. I'm doing it for my future generations. So when I close a deal, I'm not closing it for me. I'm closing it for a next level of people. I'm closing it because when I close a deal, Alex eats. When I close a deal, Amari eats. When I close a deal, Renee eats. When I close a deal, everybody in my company, the contractor, the title person, Mo, everybody is going to eat. And so that's why I close deals, is because I am providing for other people. And that's the big thing for me and that's why Alex and I are doing this webinar, right? Is it allows us to provide for other people. So those are the 3 biggest tips I would have, man. And I don't know if Alex, if you have anything to kind of echo on that.
All right, so I think a powerful thing when it comes to closing is just asking the right questions, being able to stay in control of conversations. Because I think if you don't have a strong, strong enough way of asking questions, then a lot of times conversations go in a direction that you don't intend. So I think you need to be very purposeful on where you're taking conversations. And then I do got to echo off what Will said, like people have to genuinely be interested in what you're talking to them about, because I've never bought a house from somebody that didn't want to sell. So that's the number one factor there, that you're talking to people that actually are interested in selling their property, at least when it comes to, the real estate investing game. And then also I think being decisive is key to closing, because if you have enough information and the deal works and you don't move forward aggressively, you're going to lose that deal. And I think that's super important to recognize that you got to know when to strike. right? When your opponent's down by like 5 points or 7 points in a basketball game, it's not time to take your foot off the gas there. It's your time to go ahead and close that out. That killer instinct, and I think that, it can be developed in others, but many times you need a strong closer or someone on your team that can get that contract signed, someone on your team that can influence that offer to get accepted. And there is really difficult to find great closers, but also closers that are ethical, not only just can close the deal, but that they're doing it in a way that is benefiting the company and the client as well. Because in this business, as you guys know, we're dealing with people with problems, going through some things, and there are some circumstances that come up where you could take advantage of people. And so you have to do things in an ethical manner. So I think that's a tricky balance of finding people that are strong in sales and closing, but then also that have those ethics of taking care of people and doing the right thing and structuring win-win deals. So that's really what you're looking for, because I've seen some solid closers, but that are just shady people. They're greedy, and they're going to lie to people. They're going to omit the truth. And then, then I just can't, I don't have respect for those people, because they're just doing it just to make money, not just to actually put win-win deals together.
I appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. And again, it's something like Alex said, it's something that you develop, right? It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, I'm a closer, but it's something you have to work at, you have to develop, and you have to continue to, like Alex said, like find decisive moments to move forward with. And when you find that moment, move forward.
Yeah, I want to add one more. I want to add one more thing about the closing too. Is not every circumstance is created equal. Like, for example, if you're going to a property that's a hot listing and you have you've talked to the real estate agent and they're going to show you the property, they're going to write your offer for you. That's a very high stakes meeting. You got to be at your best. And when I'm walking into a meeting with somebody that, for example, I'm going to be going to dinner with a bunch of high-level entrepreneurs and investors tomorrow night in Seattle. Well, it is going to be kind of casual. It is going to be kind of one of those things I'm seeing people that I'm familiar with, but I'm still going to be at my best, because those are high-impact meetings. And so I think it's just also up to you to recognize like when you got to just lock in and be at your very, very best. And there's other times where, hey, you just hang with friends and you don't have to, be at that same, alertness. But there are some times in this business where, man, it is super important that you are present, that you have your game plan, that you have this vision of this thing happening in a positive way, and you just lock in. I don't know how else to put it, but those are those situations that you're going to come across that are going to make those little instances, those little 5 minutes, those 10 minutes, because they're not long periods of time. It's like, okay, this 10 minutes viewing, this 5-minute phone call, but they're high impact. And so just remember that there are some situations in this business that require everything you got, and because they're going to make a much bigger impact than the rest of your day or whatever else you got going on that day.
And guys, Alex just made a post on Instagram about that, about like when we go on appointments, we typically bring 2 people for that very reason, right? One of us is the closer. One of us is the rehab estimator, the guy that's going in to kind of look at the property, and then the other guy that's going in there to close the deal, the guy that's going to have the communication, that's going to build that rapport with that agent and let them know, hey, at the end of the day, if you need somebody to close this house, like we're going to be the group. And, so it doesn't have to be something that comes right away. It's something you can grow into. I wasn't a closer in real estate right away, but once I went on those 5, 10, 15, 30 appointments with Alex, and I noticed how he negotiated, how, like he mentioned, like, dude, when it comes to that meeting, we might be having a conversation as friends in the car up there. But bro, when we pull up, he's like, I'm dialed in, I'm getting this deal. And it's like, that's the moment, right? So, the whole friendship game turns off and it's like, hey, we're going to business right now. We're going to bat. Let's go get this home run.
Cool. I think we're coming up on an hour, you guys. We want to jump back in the pool. What else everybody got?
I did have one question, Alex and Will.
All right, let's hear it.
So bouncing back on like the whole permit thing. So obviously getting permits for certain things really could delay your project. But in terms of, let's say, for example, there's like the older houses, how everything was like a room, the living room's a room, the kitchen's a room, but wanting to create an open concept between, let's say, the kitchen and the living room. let's say it's a non-bearing wall, getting permits to move a non-bearing wall could really delay it. But even if it was like, let's say a structural wall, that's it. Or like to give a little bit more reference, like we have a framing background and some engineering background. So we know the logistics of how to do that without essentially getting permits. But what boundaries, I guess, do you two typically do going forward for your flips? Like if it's non-bearing, do you just go for it, tear down the wall and then rehab it? Or
yeah, I mean, that's a
There's
simple
no
answer.
Los Angeles building inspectors in the room right now, right? First and foremost, go ahead, Alex, let it rip. Give them the answer.
Yeah, what I like to say is we basically, our contractors know that we need to do, number one, safety, health and safety is number one. So we're never going to put our end client at risk, simply to make money. But when it comes to, because it is a kind of a double-edged sword, we do want to do permits and all that, but at the end of the day, it isn't always because of the safety of the project or whatnot. It's the city is just wanting to charge us money, and then they're not efficient in helping us getting this thing back onto the market or just rehab efficiently. So it's really your choice, really, at the end of the day. But for us, we try to avoid city involvement, do everything as up to code. And then remember, when we go to sell the property, oftentimes when it's a flip, the end buyer is going to do a full home inspection. And they're going to call out anything that is an issue in the property, and we're going to have to fix that as well as whatever we rehab with the property. And then we do disclose to them if there were permits needed, we didn't pull them. Because we're being very transparent as well on that. So we're disclosing to the end buyer, hey, what you see is what you get. And also, if there are permits required for this, we didn't pull them. Now, in other situations that come up, it is something where like, hey, we have to pull permits on this, and we're not going to avoid it. It is what it is, and we're just going to do it. But we do try to avoid that if possible. That's the real answer.
Yeah, totally. Do you see any effects on like trying to sell when you tell them like, hey, we didn't pull permits, but you do know that everything was done like ethically?
We haven't had any issues because there's a housing shortage. So
yeah, okay.
And we put in the disclosures that it was done in a craftsman-like manner. So that means that, hey, like Alex said, we weren't pinching pennies. We weren't doing this in an unsafe way. It just, hey, if permits were needed, we might not have pulled them. But it was still done in a very craftsman-like manner, and you would feel safe being in the house.
Okay, sweet. That really helps. That's definitely something that's been holding us back a little bit, just the whole permit, not permit situation. But
you're going to be living in the property, right?
Me?
Or is you're living in the property, or is this a rental?
No, this would be for flip. So we're trying to start flipping. But we're starting to look at houses, and a lot of the houses that we've looked at, we can create that open concept. But it's the whole, to what extent do we get the city involved if we know that, let's say my dad's the framer. So he's been in framing for over 20 years. So he knows the ins and outs of a house. And then I have a structural engineering background. So, putting those two together, we can kind of move forward, but it's the whole, okay, permits.
You got this, girl. You got this. Roll with it. You're good.
You are way better off than we are, girl. You are crushing it. If you're a structural engineer background, you're, way more qualified than some of the other things that we've been doing.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll point on that, Jessica, is what's the value of your house? So like Alex said, there's a shortage of housing, right? So on our flips, we typically tend to invest in below the median average price point. So those buyers are typically going to look for more bang for their buck. So if they can get an open floor plan without having to pay the added permit fees, they're going to say, hey, you know what? This open floor plan looks nice. It looks safe. I'm going to hang out here. Whereas if you're doing $1 million plus home, that's a more savvy buyer that might be like, hey, I want permits. I want every duck in a row if I'm putting $1 million down on this house.
Yeah.
And so knowing that end buyer pool and who it is that you're kind of going to, I think that has a lot to affect with the permit side as well. We just finished a house, Alex, in Southgate that had city involvement. They do a pre-sale city inspection. So the city comes and we were able to sell the house without doing permits, passing those permits off to the home buyer because that home buyer wanted the house that bad and there were no other homes that qualified for his price point, right?
Yep.
All right.
So know the end buyer.
There you got it. I think we're wrapping up, guys. Anybody else have any other questions or comments, concerns, complaints?
Guys, next week, I think we're going to bring a special guest, and we'll kind of keep an announcement coming to you guys here this week once we confirm that. As always, let us know in the Facebook group if you have any questions for the special guest once we announce it. And please, if you guys are new, I see some new faces in here, go ahead and introduce yourself in the Facebook group, because like you saw today, there's other investors in here that have answers to your questions. And if you post them in that Facebook group, you're going to get the answers a lot quicker than having to wait until next month when we do another one of these open house meetups. So do keep involved, stay on touch in the Facebook group, and we'll look forward to catching you guys on the next one.
Have a fantastic week. Let's get it.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Let's go.